It's the Ed Bernstein Show, Home Edition. Now, here's your host, Ed Bernstein.
Hi, and welcome to our show. Well, it's that time again. We're going to talk to judges and judicial candidates. Can't tell you how important this is, not only in this election, but any election. You hear a lot about the presidential race, the congressional races, but what typically affects people more are judicial races. There you're one-on-one with a judge, and that really does have an impact and a result and consequence, perhaps, of your life. And with me today is Adam Ganz, and a little bit later, Trevor Atkins, who was just recently appointed a couple years ago by Governor Sisolak, or a year ago by Governor Sisolak. But Adam, let me do full disclosure here, okay? Because my wife, Claudia, is participating in doing commercials for you because she is a true believer in your ability, skill, fairness, and knowledge. And I just wanted to disclose that she's out there doing commercials, and I think she does one in Spanish too for you, doesn't she?
That's correct. Yeah, she's amazing, and I really appreciate her support for sure.
Well, she just likes the guy that you are, and I told her how intelligent you are, so she's happy to do it.
Thank you. I appreciate your support too.
But I mean, you've been such a successful attorney. Why do you want to become a judge?
Well, for me, I want to become a judge because I believe in the system. Just from my deep down, I've always wanted to be a judge. I'm kind of a dreamer in that sense, and I come from a family of dreamers. But the reality is that I've always wanted the judicial system to be the best that it possibly can, and I've been fighting for people's rights my entire career for more than 20 plus years. And now it's time to focus on the system and making the system as best as I can for everybody in our community, and to give back to our community that way.
Yeah, I know that equality is a big issue for you, but can you be more specific? When you become a judge, like how will you deal with some of these issues that are so difficult today on racism, equality, that type of thing?
Systemic racism that people are feeling within our system, they're feeling it, and I see that, and it's real. I was watching one of my favorite movies recently called Lean on Me, and Lean on Me is based on a true story about a principal named Joe Clark. It's played by Morgan Freeman, and he's hired to run one of the worst schools in the state of New Jersey that he's in at the time. And the movie starts out with Freeman early in his career teaching a class about history, and he introduces the word imbrue, I-M-B-R-U-E, and he says it's a word that just describes, and he describes it as to taint the spirit and stain the growth and block the fabric of a person's consciousness. And he says the cancer of racism imbrues our national character. And this scene took place nearly 50 years ago in the 70s, and the movie's already 30 years old. I mean, it's been out there a long time, yet this could have been yesterday or any day in the last 100 years or so, or even longer. I mean, this has been a problem in our country for decades now. So the question is, why are we still having this conversation? And I want to run for judge, and I'm running for judge to ensure, and I'll expect equality for everyone, to try to end that stain on our judicial system and to build up the faith in our judicial system for the people of this community, my community, because Vegas is better than that, and we need to show it and do everything we possibly can to make it better.
Have you experienced that in the courtroom?
I have. I've represented many Latinos throughout my career, and I can tell you that I've seen it both in federal court and in state court. I've argued in front of the Ninth Circuit on behalf of Hispanic clients who I felt didn't get a fair trial, in state court, the Nevada Supreme Court, and also in Arizona Supreme Court. And I've tried cases, I mean, to the point to where my client, who spoke perfect English, was a resident of the United States legally, was severely injured as a result of somebody doing something wrong to him. And ultimately, we went to a jury trial and we lost because the jury just couldn't get past the color of his skin. And ultimately, we retried that case because the client gave up he truly wanted to kill himself afterwards, and was having some problems afterwards because he couldn't understand why he's given so much to this country and everything that he's done for it to be treated that way by the judicial system. We didn't give up, though. We ended up getting a new trial and ultimately had a success story out of it, where he's now retired and ultimately doing fairly well in Idaho now. But the system is tough on people, and you don't know it until you get into it. And I do have some experience with that from my client's perspective.
That's indicative of one of the characteristics of your reputation as an attorney who doesn't give up.
That is absolutely something that I feel is important, because you can't let the system decide a matter when it was decided incorrectly. So sometimes we have taken cases. Just a week ago, I was arguing in front of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. It was last Tuesday, on a child who was in the foster care system. Unfortunately, they were taken from their home because their parents couldn't take care of them, and put into a foster home that should never have been licensed. I mean, never should have been licensed. And ultimately, this child was killed, suffocated to death in her crib. She was less than a year old. And the district court in the federal court system dismissed the case against the foster care system. And ultimately, we appealed it to the Ninth Circuit. And I think we'll have a good result in the Ninth Circuit and return it back down and hopefully get a fair trial someday. But we will never give up. And I don't think people deserve that. I mean, they really need the opportunity for a fair fight. And if you don't have it fair, it doesn't work for anybody. The foster care system is there is a cap on those cases, meaning that you can only sue the government agency for X amount of dollars unless they're violating someone's constitutional rights. In this case, they were violating her Fourth Amendment right to due process. But ultimately, by having her in their custody and control, and supposedly taking her from a home that she's unsafe in, and putting her in a home that she's even more unsafe in, is where the injustice goes. And ultimately, that's what we fight those cases for. I do pro bono work for children that have been abused and neglected. Ultimately, kids who are taken from their homes, and I represent them as their voice in court. And that is the pro bono work that I have done for more than 20 years now in this community as well. I have a passion for children, obviously, and I believe that they need a voice in the system. Ultimately, sometimes their parents don't have the best interest for them, and they need somebody to advocate for them. And I've done that most of my career.
What are some of the important characteristics that one needs to have to be a great judge?
Well, I think temperament's the number one thing. And then obviously equality is another. Those are some of the attributes, I believe. But I also think you have to make sure that you're moving your calendar along too. I cannot even tell you how long some of these cases, that case I talked about earlier about Marco Centeno Alvarez, who the client who we lost that trial, and he tried to kill himself, and then we had to go back again. That case lasted almost 11 years. The system needs to move along a little bit quicker. And I think judges need to really concentrate on that. But by the same token, balancing people's equality rights and making sure that they're going to have a fair shake in the system as well. So it's a delicate balance, but I anticipate that I will be ensuring that cases do move along in my docket. That's my goal. You
were born in Las Vegas. You've seen a lot of changes here. I mean, how we doing? We getting better? We getting worse?
Actually, I came here when I was about 3 years old. My parents moved here to be in the casino industry, so almost a lifelong Las Vegan. But yeah, there's been a ton of change. I mean, I grew up on the west side of town, went to Bonanza High School. You got Trevor Atkin coming on later. He also actually went to Bonanza High School. He's a little bit older than me, and I've litigated cases against Judge Atkin, I should say now, for many, many years. But Vegas has changed. It used to be when you started out as a lawyer that you could just, make an agreement with another attorney and shake hands and talk about dates that things need to get done, and everything would be fine. Now that kind of professionalism has gone away a little bit. If you're talking about changes in the legal community, if you're talking about changes in our community, I still believe that we are a small town. I don't care how many people we have in this community. I really feel like I can walk into a supermarket and see people that I grew up with. I can go to a UNLV basketball game or football game, of course, not during COVID, but during those times, and see many, many people that I grew up with over the years. And so it's still a small town feel, which I think gives me the desire to continue to stay here and fight for the community and make it better.
I remember when I started practicing law, I think 10 district court judges. We're in the when you add on family court and as part, we're like in the 50s or 60s now. I don't even know.
Oh, more than that. Yeah, we're close to, I think there's close to, with the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeals, I think you have close to 70 judges, and almost all of them are, by the way, are on the ballot this year. So
Right.
it's a 4-page ballot, and the majority of that is judges this year.
So it must be very difficult to campaign, get your voice heard, get your name out there. I mean, it's a lot of clutter in this election.
Sure is. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be on your show with your fan base and getting to speak to your people that follow you as well. But, Zoom has certainly allowed you some good things. I get to go speak at Mesquite and Moapa, once a week. I get out there sometimes. In Boulder City, I'm going to be speaking at tonight as well. So I get to some of the rural areas. But some of our other events that we normally would be doing are definitely not going now, and they shouldn't be going. It's not safe to do that. It's not safe for everybody. It's more important for us to be safe in that environment.
And then the department you're running for, is that a criminal department or a civil department or mixed? How does that work?
So currently it's a criminal department, but my understanding from speaking with Chief Judge Bell, that she will rearrange the departments after everybody is elected and after the election, and you'll get to kind of choose a little bit, but she'll also put it more towards your experience. And I've done civil litigation for over 22 years. I feel very comfortable jumping in day one to a full civil docket. Eventually, I would like to do criminal stuff. I have done criminal stuff in the past. I was a justice of the peace pro tem, and I've done criminal matters, mainly domestic violence matters in that particular arena. But certainly, I'd feel more comfortable immediately dealing with the civil stuff. And right now, there's more civil cases filed in our jurisdiction, almost 3 times as many every year than there are criminal. So we need civil judges as well.
And I'm sure there's a huge backlog with COVID-19. I mean, everything's been getting continued more or less. Trial. What's going on with trials lately, by the way?
There has not been a jury trial in a civil matter, and I don't think they're expecting one. I'm hoping they'll have one this year. I know Judge Weiss has tried to do that, but you have to get those going in order to move this process along. And we need to come up with some alternatives, and I'm ready to jump into that and figure out some creative ways to do that with some technology, and also maybe revamping some courtrooms or whatever we have to do that. I really want to get into that and get that moving along, because we have not tried cases. They are backing up. You can just add a year onto the period of time that your case was going to go, because it's going on. And to be honest with you, justice is not served for anybody, whether you're being sued or suing somebody. To have that trial date pushed out over a year just because of what's going on is not good for anybody.
All right, we got about less than a minute left. Adam, make the case why somebody should vote for you.
Well, in my department, in my race, it's about experience. I've tried over 50 jury trials in my experience. I've tried cases, like I said, in not only Nevada, but Arizona, California, the appeals court in the Nevada Supreme Court, Arizona, the Court of Appeals in the Ninth Circuit. I have the experience, the temperament, and the education to be able to bring about a fair and equitable resolution to people's disputes. And I want to continue to do that and to work for our community and make our community better by doing that.
Thank you so much, and good luck, Adam. Ganz, we'll be right back with Trevor Atkins. My daughter Dana fought a long battle with Crohn's disease before passing last year.
It's our goal to help the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation find a cure for this horrible disease.
Join Max and I in scoring our goal to find a cure. Welcome back, and with me now is Judge Trevor Atkin. And Judge, although you wear those judicial robes, you're still a newbie.
Yes, I am. I've been here. October 1st will make 1 year.
And you were appointed by the governor amongst dozens of applicants, I suspect.
Yeah.
How does that process work?
That's a good question. I first learned about the process when I was requested to serve on the Judicial Selection Commission, because that's where it starts. There's an opening, and then the state bar sends out an invitation to attorneys. Hey, anyone interested who meets these qualifications can apply. And so I was one of 16 applicants who applied. And you fill out, you're vetted like you can't believe, like you might imagine. and it was, I want to say about 40 pages. It took a while. They want to know everything, credit history, anything that, so anyway, long story short, you submit that to the Judicial Selection Commission, which is there's about 10 members headed by the Chief Justice of the Nevada Supreme Court and other community leaders and lawyers from throughout the state. And they interview you in a room, firing questions at you, and it's all aired. It's public access, and then they picked, in my instance, the top 3 to go to the governor for consideration. Obviously, I made it to the top 3, and many of the people now running for judge were my competitors, so to speak, all very well qualified lawyers. And then the governor, I was fortunate, he selected me.
Well, yeah, it's a very prestigious appointment. And speaking of prestige, I mean, your past was you ran a very prestigious law firm here in Las Vegas for a number of years, very prominent law firm. And then you decided to throw your hat into the ring and for that appointment, that judicial appointment. Why did you decide to become a judge?
And that prominent law firm, thank you. That was my own firm. I started it myself with my 3 partners back in 2004. And in the time of 15 years, we grew it to 17 attorneys, and we had a total of 48 employees. And I had some judges that privately approached me and some attorneys privately approached me saying, hey, there's an opening. We think you'd make a good judge. I said, they're being too kind. They said, no, seriously, do this for the bar and for our judiciary. And I said, you know what? I'll do it. This town's been good to me. And it's cliche, but this is my way of giving back. This town was good to 3 generations of my family, including raising my daughter. And I thought, I'm going to do this. And I put my name in the hat.
Well, my previous guest, Adam Ganz, stated that you went to Bonanza.
I did. He went there as well. All public school throughout here in Las Vegas. Started at Laura Deering, Booker Washington, 6th grade, Cashman Junior High, and Bonanza High School in 1980. I'm proud of that diploma. It's in my office.
Did you have a burning desire to become a judge? I mean, some people have it, when they're young and they know they want to go to law school and one day to be a judge. Did you have that kind of feeling, or you just developed it after being involved in litigation?
No, I never had that thought. I never thought myself worthy, quite honest. I thought I've always held judges in the highest of esteem, and there's a lot of smart judges, and I just never considered myself judge material, to be quite honest. But after 32 years, I guess you learn a little along the way. And I lived in a courtroom, and that's what I do. I'm a civil trial attorney, and that's the cases I preside over. And then like I said, I had a couple trusted peers and couple judges that said, you need to do this. And I thought long and hard about it. I prayed about it. And one wise friend said, do you see yourself doing this attorney work in 5 years, or do you see yourself being a judge? I said, I'd like to, in 5 years, be thought of as a very good judge that gave back to the community. So that's why I put my name in.
Well, and then you became a judge at a very, very difficult time during COVID-19. Adam Ganz and I were talking about how there's not been any jury trials lately, and how everything is getting bottlenecked, and we were talking. He was saying how we have to be creative, and in this time period, and how we're going to administer justice properly during this COVID-19. And I know you've been working very closely with our chief judge in facilitating some of that.
Yes, I have. And I can't stress how important it is and what it means, because justice delayed is justice denied. And it holds true in civil cases as well. A lot of people invest. This becomes like they don't have closure. That's why there's the lawsuit. And so there's people out there that don't have closure. Even it's not criminal, but it's civil, and it means a lot to them. And they're not getting their day in court, so to speak. So I have the highest admiration and regard for Chief Judge Linda Bell, my boss, so to speak, in trying to do whatever she can possibly do to allow us as judges to have jurors in our courtroom. But the thing that she always comes back to is it safe? We can't do it just to do it. And so we're guided by CDC guidelines, and there's only so many resources that the county can commit as far as money to retrofit these courtrooms and make it possible so that our jurors are safe, because we can't have trials just for the sake of having them. They have to be done responsibly and safely, especially when we're drawing people in from the public to sit as jurors, because without them, it doesn't work. But you can't put those jurors at risk. So that's where we're at. But there's one, our first jury trial in a civil department's going on right now with, I believe it's Judge Delaney. They're trying to work it out, but it's hard. Normally we have 32 district court judges over here, and any one in time we might have 32 jury trials going on. Just to get one it takes Herculean efforts, so to speak.
Yeah. And look, I keep repeating to our viewers how important these judge races are. They don't get the attention that the presidential race and the congressional races get, but could have the most significant effect on any individual's life. And we have, and I don't know, somehow the legislature or somebody changed. I don't know how the law changed. So I was looking the other way when this thing changed, because all of a sudden all the judges are running at the same time. It wasn't always like that.
No, it wasn't like this.
Right?
This is I think the first time that all 32 are up for election. And I want to say 13 of them drew an opponent, myself being one of them, which is fine. I'm glad the voters have a chance to look at my qualifications, look at my record, and decide as the way it should be.
Yeah. Well, you said 32, but you have the family court judges.
Oh, yeah, add them to it.
Judges, justice court judges, North Las Vegas judges, Henderson. I mean, it's hard for me to keep track of who's running where, and it's got to be almost an impossible task for the average voter.
It is. In fact, my mom and dad, God bless, they ask, am I in your district 8? I said, no. I remind them, it's hard. There's 32 district court judges, and I'm just happen to be room number 8. So it's a county-wide race, and all the county district court judges are up for election.
Right. Well, when you talk about district court number 8, you have some history. I'm sure you can go back and remember who some of those judges were. And remember Judge Wendell?
Yes, the sweetest man, the nicest. I would lose, but I'd walk out with a smile on my face because he was so kind. And that's the bar for me, is to be courteous. He was so darn courteous. And then came Judge Gates. Not to say he wasn't, but Judge Wendell was a hard act to follow. You remember, Ed?
Michael Wendell.
Yep. Yeah, and then Judge Smith. Was my predecessor. So, and they're outside on my wall. It's weird when I walk into my chambers, there's the pictures of all the judges, and there I am sitting there smiling at myself thinking, boy, I have to pinch myself. I still can't believe I'm a judge here with all these other great judges.
Well, it's interesting that you and I, been practicing in front of these people for a long time, and we can think back about a judge like Judge Wendell, and be reminded about his character, his personality, how as you indicated, how he made you feel even when you lost, when you walked out of his room. It was always, you always were treated with respect. He was always had empathy for people, even when he was being firm and ruling against you. And when you said that's set the bar for you, so let's talk about some of the characteristics that are important to you in being a judge.
First is being prepared. I don't pretend to know everything. And like I said at the outset, I never quite considered myself judge material. I always thought those people were, superhuman. And so I think that's what drives me to be prepared is I want to succeed. I want to do my job right. I just had a long day of hearings on a complicated labor issue. So you got to be prepared. And I studied my tail off to keep up with these lawyers in this very narrow specialized field that I didn't necessarily practice in. So I like to first be prepared. And the second is listen. I shouldn't be the one talking. I should be doing the one listening. And so it's important to listen. The third characteristic is humility. And to know I don't know everything. I might make mistakes, but I'm going to do it knowing I did my best. And I listened, and then finally do it with empathy. You're not allowed to have sympathy. I can't have sympathy for someone. It's weird. In the four corners of this courtroom, the law doesn't allow for that, but it's a natural human emotion. And I don't think you're human if you can't sympathize. But you know what we can do, Ed, is like what Judge Wendell did. He empathized. And so I empathize with people. This might be their worst day being in court. You don't want to be in court. They might be having a bad day. They might not be very polite, but they're having a hard day. And I empathize with their situation, especially when it's tough to achieve access to justice. They might just be tough. So to have empathy. So be prepared, work hard, be humble, and have empathy. Those four things.
Well, I couldn't agree more. And the Judge we were talking about exemplifies that. And so far, over the last year that you've been on the bench, you have as well. I mean, I know that you're being very modest, and that you thought you didn't have those thoughts about being a judge, and think you were worthy of it. But oftentimes the people rise to the occasion of the office that they hold. And from what the feedback I get from the way you're running your courtroom is that you fall right into that Judge Wendell category.
Well, that's kind words coming from you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. So are you going to miss practicing law?
No, I don't. I really like this spot I'm in. And again, I did a lot of praying in making this decision. It was a big decision. I had to sell my law firm that I started from scratch with my hands, and four people. And a lot of those people, they worked for me and with me for over a decade. And then to walk away from it and sell it, man, that hurt.
Yeah.
But the minute I stepped over here, and believe me, they don't give you a training manual. I got sworn in, and 5 minutes later, I'm out calling balls and strikes. But I don't miss it. I don't miss the arguing, and you can doing that for 32 years. That's lawyers and litigators' jobs. And doing it over half your life, I did it for 32 years. I'm 58 now. So I can say literally, I sound like an older gentleman, my grandfather. It wore on me. And I really love giving back to my community on the bench. And I can do so because I get to go out in the community now. Even with COVID, I get to meet people. I get to hear from people. I get to speak at things. I get to mentor. I get to do a lot of things that I otherwise would not have done. And so I'm getting to give back that I can't do that as an attorney.
Well, look, I think it's great that people are getting to meet you as well. So good luck in the upcoming race, Judge Atkin. Viewers, get out there and vote for these judges. They are could be the most important vote that you do make this election year. So we'll see you next week on the Ed Bernstein Show.
Thank you, Ed.
When sorry is not enough. Enough said. Call Ed. EdBernstein.com.